Hey, and welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today we're going to be talking again about IDEX. This is an update on my last DD. So this ticker belongs to the company called Ideanomics. They work in, they have different fields that they're working with, and the latest is in EV dealerships in China. So last time I did mention that it was definitely a buy for me in terms of a pullback, and I'll show you what I did. I definitely had some orders here that happened. I didn't play the stock in a massive scale just because it only partially filled at some point, but I still gained good money out of it. Now, looking at it through the William percent R, which gives us a bit of an indication whether stock is overbought or oversold, we can see that this stock is still overbought, yet it's a little bit less overbought than the day before. And that could be more of a good sign. Now we can get to see that the unbalanced volume is getting in more on the positive side. That means that there's more buy-ins in. The overbought decrease is a positive sign, yet it's still not in a comfortable position that I would like it in. The average directional index is a little bit on the sloppy side and has been sloppy, but it's still gaining a moderate amount of strength. So that's a good sign, but it's still very shaky. Now, when we're looking on the momentum, it doesn't tell us much as it increased the momentum, went from a little bit from negative to positive, but it hasn't seen this territory before, so this could be a good sign to a breakout. Now, volumes have been a little bit less than the day before, and that kind of explains when I zoom in what the current movement is. Averages, the 10 SMA is under the 30 EMA, so still low below. So that's a little bit of a rough sign to look at, and we've started to see here that it actually broke through the last time I talked about the 0.51 resistance, and once it breaks it, then it becomes a little bit more attractive to me, and if it drops, then I get to see what happens pre-market. Now let's see what happened. 5 days, 1 hour. Around this period is where I had done my DD, and I was mentioning that I would like to see the MACD a little bit populate during the day. So the MACD shows the strength in the movement, and I'll just be pointing out what happens when they cross. That's very important. So as you can see, on a smaller scale, the average directional index was very powerful yesterday, and that kept the movement up until the early morning. Around early morning, just as soon as the market opens, it reached around 60 to 70. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that the average directional index that I prefer is around 25.30 to around 45.50, and that's kind of the range. Anything above 50, it's going to get very sloppy, and there's a high reversal chance. Now, looking through this, we can get to see that the current movement is around 59. It decreased a little and stabilized. The current stock into a daily scale is more averaging around, I would say, neutral, and it has lost a lot of momentum. So if you remember, in the 1 day, we've seen high momentum, but when you look into a bit closer, you see a little bit of loss of momentum. The MACD here shows a little bit of an importance that we have to refer to, and I'll refer to this in a sec. Now, in terms of the averages in a smaller day, you can see that the 10 SMA is greater than the 30 EMA, which is a good short-term index. It's not good for a longer term, as we've seen in the 1 month, 1 day chart. Now, what is the current resistance? The good news is that the current resistance is not seen for a while, but it has a support at around 60, and you can see it hit it a few times over. So once it hits that 60, you can kind of sense into what direction it might go. So it's kind of a little bit off, different indications that here and there that you have to give your best guess. Now, looking into the MACD, I tried to day trade this one a little. I failed to have a full order, so it only triggered, I think, 1/10 of my order. So I bought it at around 58 cents, and I sold it around 60.57. Now that was an easy around $50 flip. Although if I waited a little bit longer, I would have been able to sell it around 64, I would say. So that's a good scalp. So I'll be making another video about scalpings. Sometimes you're able to make around $200, $400, $500 on 15-minute trades or an hour day trading. Most of my positions are a little bit on the medium term, where I hold them around a day or two, or for instance a week. I'll be making another videos about my holdings. Now, I chose to enter around this period, and you can see in the MACD, that's where the period was, the positive rally has almost weakened so much, and it is almost turning to more of a bear market. Now, this is not confirmed because the bear market can flip so easily by the morning, but I was able to see a bit of an indication. So the average directional index started to decline. I can see that it's going into neutral, getting a little bit overbought, so that might be a bit of an increase that was signaling. Momentum wasn't that good, but I was only going in for a very short term, so I didn't really need that much volume. But you can see what's happening here on the on-balance. So this signals a different story, right? The on-balance volume here is positive. The on-balance volume here is negative. And you can see that there's been dumping for the stock, and here it was more pumping into the stock. Volumes have declined a little bit during the day. At this point, what I can say is that the stock has been turning more into a negative side. So it might actually see some red tomorrow. Now let's try to look into a 1-day, 30-minute perspective. You can get to see that in a shorter term, even a shorter term, you get to see that it's the negative MACD is actually declining, and it might actually see a bit more positive. Once you see a bit more positive, that confirms somewhat of a green day or very short-term green. But again, that's on the 30-minute scale, so you might only be seeing around 30-minute green on the next day. Now, I use this as well for a good indication when I was buying in. Now, in that sense, I was able to figure out what kind of movements it's going to go for from previously and try to give my best guess on level 2. Now, level 2 data is very important because you get to see all the orders that are put in, and you get to place your order in a better way. Now, let's look into even a closer scale, around the 20 minutes. You can get to see that a reversal is really likely. So, in my opinion, this stock might actually be trading sideways in a way. It has some good news that has something regarding delivering taxis in Guyana, and I think it's around 2,300 electric taxis. So that's good news, but the market has already reacted for it. Now, in my opinion, I would love to day trade this one again, but I would not be touching it until the early morning. Now, what are you looking for? And I'll give you that indication. What you want to look for is on an hourly scale, a reversal to this trend. You want to look to the average directional index to stabilize a little. The William %R, if you can see here, once it decreases, it has a higher chance to actually even break out to green, right? So we want to have a bit of an upward movement. Now you can get to see a little bit of an upward movement here in the last minutes, but the aftermarket can easily be manipulated. The MACD with histogram, you want to see that a little bit to either pull back, either having the maximum negative and then going to a little bit shorter negative, or it reverse. So that's some of the things I'm looking at. Now, one of the most important things to look at is level 2, and you get to see what the volume has picking up, right? And you get to see all the orders, and you have a bit of a feel where the walls are. Now, what is a wall in level 2? Let's say you see 60K orders coming in at 0.64. You know, it's very much harder to go below that price because there's massive amounts of orders. And again, you get to see basically a seller wall or buyer wall, and you know what kind of your resistance or your next support is. Now, thank you very much, and leave me in the comment below whatever sticker you want me to DD next. And again, leave a like and a comment and subscribe. Thank you and have a wonderful day.